So I was just telling Harvey before we went live, I'm slowly losing my mind. Now, I think one of the things that I'm slowly losing my mind about is the camera. I don't know what it is, but I'll be sitting here and it'll be facing the right direction. And then I don't know, 10 minutes later, I look up and it's facing a different direction. So at some point, you may have a better view of my door, which, whatever. I mean, it's fine. But, it's weird and bothersome. So,
You've got a cooler setup than mine, though, dude. It'll make you laugh. I've got a whole desk set up over there, but old habits die hard, and I work from my kitchen every day. I can't do it, dude. It's but I get mocked by my friends for working on my tiny 13-inch MacBook Air and not like the industry standard, like triple monitor setup, you know. So
yeah. So I, um, I too am an old habits die hard. Like, I've got my big fancy desk with my giant screen.
mm,
Um, I wish I could just sit at the dining table with like my iPad and get
mm,
some work done, but I don't know what it is, man. Like I know what it is. It's not the screen size. It's not any the problem is it's an iPad, not a real computer. Like I love using my iPad, don't get me wrong, but there are just sometimes some things that I just can't do because it's an iPad,
mm.
and it's a little frustrating. So, we've got a few people in here. What I like to do to start off is let you guys know a little bit about us. So, with that said, I'm Steve. I do webinars at Alternative Payments, and I used to run an MSP. I ran one for over a decade. I have been an IT professional since 2002, so that's like almost 25 years. I uh I got my Novell NetWare 5 certification in 2000. You guys, you know how good that did me, right? Harvey's, you don't even know what Novell NetWare is, do you?
I was about to say I remember the year well, dude. I was born in '98.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you have no idea what I'm talking about. I feel incredibly old. All right. So, that's a little bit about me. Harvey, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, sir?
Sure. So, dude, I'm a techie by background. So, I'm a developer, and I ran a dev shop for far too long. And then, like every good dev shop owner, I got bored of building projects for other people, and we made our own. So, I run a company called EverHold. We build MSP software. We try and do it a bit different. We try and be cool, but of course, I'm going to say that I'm biased. But our core product is Trigger. So we have like a MSP automation platform that's 100% done for you. And we also have a free product called Tisha. So you don't run any security awareness training, any phishing simulations. That's 100% free. And you don't want to know my AWS bill on my credit card every month, but better or worse, it's a free product. And yeah, that's me.
All right, man. Well, hey, Harvey and the team over at Everhold, they created this automation maturity framework. You've worked with, I don't know, like over 800 MSPs, something like that, right, Harvey?
We've got over 1,000 on our products now. We actually hit that the other
Okay.
week. So kind of cool, right?
Yeah. So
Mm.
this automation maturity framework, it's kind of helped you understand how to benchmark and help MSPs know exactly where they are and what it takes for them to like level up. So
Mm.
last week, if you guys watched, I had Matt from Thread on I don't remember if it's the CEO or COO. I always get that mixed up. But Matt's a great guy, and he talked about um, help desk maturity model because he's actually got an AI help desk maturity model that he built. And so today, just so we're clear, this is not This is not a product pitch. We'll talk about the product a little bit later on that Harvey offers and even the one that I offer, but this is truly going to be an educational webinar. So, Harvey, you built an automation framework. Uh, let's talk about it, man. Why did you create it?
Yeah, for sure. So we ran into the issue where we'd be onboarding different people into our product and building automations. Uh, and very often we found we try and run before we could walk. Like a typical example is, we'd build like a new user onboarding flow for someone or something like that. And it would work
Mhm.
great. And then we get a month in and we get a phone call going, "Hey Harv, this isn't cool. We did it for this one client and it didn't do this one thing over here that we thought it should do. The problem is no one ever documented it. We never knew about it. And, it wasn't good for anyone. And so we sort of built this framework just from working with different people around what are the different steps we need to put in place before we actually even try and automate anything. It's like, how do you benchmark where you are? Where can we, like, how can we take what you've got already? And then, yeah, how can you sort of move up the ladder and not run before you can walk and just, you know, build on a good foundation?
Yeah. So
Mm,
you probably had a bunch of MSPs asking you where do we start with automation, or how's our automation look, or why doesn't it feel like things are smooth, that type of thing, right? So
for sure.
um did you have a clear way to benchmark their like automation maturity yet? Is
No,
that
we
is that
sort of
kind of why you built this?
we developed it over time. It truthfully, it mostly came from us butting our head against the wall and thinking what we're doing wrong here. And
Yeah,
so it sort of got built out of what went wrong with different people. And then how can we, actually put a framework in place to help move people in a very like smooth and easy way.
wonderful. So I would say there's probably a core question here with your framework. How
Mm.
much human involvement is required in your automation? Would you
Mm.
agree with that?
For sure. That's basically the whole premise. It goes from well, stage one we call manual. It's not really automation, but to show where you start off, that's all. You know, you're 100% automated by humans. You pay people, and then we move all the way up to stage four, which is just like no human involvement at all. So yeah, for sure.
Love it. So why do you think MSPs care about automation maturity? Like what's it matter if they're a certain level of maturity? Like they should just automate all the things, right?
Yeah, no, but you can't run before you can walk. And we
You
see it
keep
a lot,
saying
right?
that.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of conversations right, with people that start off, which are like, they look at automation because it's shiny and they think they should be doing it. But, they read a blog post about you could do a shiny new automation, but it doesn't really add any commercial value. It's like, it's cool to do it for the sake of doing it. But, when I talk about running before you can walk too, it's also about what they may be more boring, but what automations you actually put in place that actually, you know, move the needle. They save you time or,
Mm.
they prevent more errors happening or they make you more money. That's what we sort of talk about too. Is like get your foundations like in place before you try and do shiny objects. But we all like
Okay.
shiny objects, right? But
I don't see a problem at all with shiny objects. I love them very much.
me too.
Um, all right, but what about like there are some things that MSPs can start doing once they how do I put this? Because you've put together this maturity model, right? Now you're basically saying if you were to do all of these things in this bucket, now you've reached this certain level of maturity. And in order to say you're the next level of maturity, you have to do all the things in that bucket, right?
For sure.
So by doing this, you're literally creating a roadmap for MSPs to be able to say, all right, we've automated all this stuff, right? And And you probably just pick random things to automate because it seems fun or cool or neat, or you get to play with a new toy or a new tool, right? But
Hmm.
what often needs to happen is you need to take a step back and look at where is your time being spent and what can be automated to free up that time to do other better things. So, uh, by by caring about your your automation maturity level, that's going to be hard to break for this one. Um, this is going to allow you to scale without hiring. You're going to be able to protect your margins because
Hmm.
you know how it is. You sign up a new client and they become that squeaky wheel, right? And a little bit of automation is the oil that it needs. It's not your engineers spending more time with that client and doing more hand holding. You need to figure out how to automate some of this stuff. Um, the automation can help you with consistent delivery,
Hmm.
so if it's automated, that means it's being done the same way every time, regardless of which tech handles it, because they're just pushing a button. Or better yet, it does it kind of autonomously and you don't even have to get involved. You're just on a beach sipping mojitos and your RMM and Intune and whatever else you use, it's all doing the work for you. And then finally, this will give you like a little bit of strategic focus. So if you and your team have automated all of these mundane tasks, password resets and why doesn't this work on my computer? Have you turned it off and on again? Doing computer reboots, all of the things, right? Installing Office, automating onboarding, offboarding for new users, former users, new clients, all the things. That allows you and your team to start to focus on like high value projects. So now you guys get to think more strategically rather than being stuck in the weeds all day, every day. Would you agree with all those statements, Harvey?
Yeah, for sure. One more thing I'd add too, just to emphasize it a bit more. Automation isn't about replacing your techs. It's actually making it so they can spend more time with your client, making sure they're happy, you know, upselling, making sure, you know, the actual relationship is good as opposed to doing mundane stuff that, they don't really need to do by hand.
Yes. So you've got four stages of automation maturity.
For sure.
Um, each stage kind of builds on the last. So why don't you break these stages down for everyone?
Yeah, for sure. So, number one is basically you're not mature at all. We call it our manual stage. It's just, typical stuff. Maybe you're following Word document SOPs, if that at all. Basically you're doing everything by hand. The next
Sure.
stage, which is where like most people come to us at, is like we call it the scripted stage. So the idea is, you may have some PowerShell scripts that run. You've got your RMM running some scripts in the background for backup or whatever it may be. But it really depends on the actual technician to be able to run it. PowerShell scripts running on your machine. You get a
Right,
ticket
right.
in, you go to alternative payments, client one, boom, you run your script. But it's all very much by hand. And a big problem we see with that too is typically you got one guy who's good at PowerShell. And then if he leaves or things change, it's kind of stuck with that one guy. So you're sort of very much dependent on one key person to run your PowerShell. And then like the next stage, which is where we focus very much our effort on getting people to, we call it the event driven stage. Excuse me, sorry. And so event driven is typically, automations are triggered by external events. So typically that will be like a form submission or like a new PSA ticket. So, your client logs into a form online, they go, hey, as an HR manager, I need to request new user onboarding. They fill out the form. And then being event driven, the automation takes that data, creates user in Microsoft, and does everything else downstream from there. And then that's typically where most people we work with sit. We have stage 4, which is after that, which is slightly aspirational, but we call it the autonomous MSP. And I'm not sure anyone is ever going to get there. If you figure out, let me know. I'll buy your MSP and disappear to a beach. But the idea is, you have like predictive systems, and so we can get that partly. So imagine you have an automation running, yeah, which will check the status of Ninja backups or something like that. And then the system will see one day, oh, wait, this backup stopped working. And the idea is the automation can actually try and figure out what's gone wrong, remediate it. You don't really ever have to touch anything. It just fixes an issue before it becomes a fire. That's the idea for autonomous.
I like autonomous. I think everyone wants to be autonomous.
For
And this
sure.
might be where you start to say things like you got to walk before you can run, because I bet a lot of people are like, just going to be autonomous. Like, it's a no brainer, right? So if they just say, "Oh, I'm autonomous now," like, all right, well, how'd you get there? So
Mm.
let's talk about the manual stage. I bet I could do this one for you. Um, Everything is
Sure.
entirely human powered, right?
Intact.
So the techs, they're looking at the RMM. They're
Mm.
um, sure, like they've got an RMM, hopefully, but everything is manual. Click, type, verify, repeat. Hopefully verify is part of that, one of the steps, right? So there's probably a high reliance on checklists,
Mm.
assuming you guys have built out your checklists and your documentation well.
Mm.
So the manual stage doesn't mean you've got all of your documentation in line, because that's more operational maturity, right? This is all about automation maturity, which I don't really think the documentation matters. It's just more or less you're relying on that documentation or the knowledge in your brain to make things happen. The quality is entirely dependent on the person doing the task. Um, your service board is just a mess of tickets that could be automated. It's worse than this meeting could have been an email, because it's this ticket could have been automated. And your best people are just stuck doing awful monotonous work. I know
Yeah,
that well.
yeah, for sure. And I also add to that, it's a problem too, because yeah, if you're in that stage, you run a very reactive company, and the problem is your best technicians get burned out.
Uh,
So you mentioned about the inconsistency in like service delivery. It's not even just people, making mistakes or faking it. It's just people get tired, dude. If you're running around doing everything all by yourself, uh,
yeah.
people get tired. People miss stuff. Uh,
I'm tired right now.
Dude, I've been tired since the day I started this company, but
Yeah. I've been tired for 12 years.
take that off. Oh man.
Oh
I
boy.
dude, I'm a developer, right? So like uh it's in my nature to be tired. I sit on my laptop till stupid o'clock at 5 a.m. hacking stuff together. I'm a tinkerer at heart. So uh
Yeah, but is it 5 a.m. US time or 5 a.m. UK time?
dude, like UK. So I cover as a company, we only really cover Eastern hours, but I spend most of my time in London and I go back and forth. So I'll finish work at like, I don't know, midnight, 1 a.m., depending on the day. But then I've got to do the fun stuff. So I tinker till 5 and then probably go to bed when the sun comes up. But, you know.
So, I mean, right now, if you guys didn't know, Harvey's actually from the future, because while it's 11:20 here, it's what, 4:20 there, right?
420.
So, yeah, that's it's all you, buddy. Um, all right. So stage one, we don't really have to talk about stage one anymore, because stage one, he calls it the manual stage. I call it sadness. So we don't want to be in sadness. We want to be in happiness. So
True.
stage two is where things start getting happy. Harvey, tell us about stage two, man. This is the scripted stage.
Yeah, dude. Scripted stage is fun. I am going to preface one thing before we jump into this. You mentioned, I know it blends with the operational maturity. You mentioned documentation isn't so important. That's more operational. I'm going to counter slightly and say that's the biggest thing I'm going to force everyone to do, even if you're going from manual to just doing the first scripts. Because, dude, like the biggest thing we run into if tribal knowledge being a problem. And, if one tech deals with one client typically, and, you know, it's not written down that that one tech needs this one SharePoint folder created. Uh, when you go to even do basic PowerShell scripts and you got one dude doing that in your office, you're screwed. You're going to miss stuff still. So even
Mhm.
before you do anything, and it's boring. I get it. I hate doing it. You hate doing it. Even a flowchart, and just get your text to check it and say, have you missed anything here? It could be a fucking pen and paper. Excuse my language. But you know what I mean? It's just, do it.
Well, I wanna counter that only slightly and say
Sure.
I agree that the documentation should be like a must. Okay. I have no qualms with that. I just think that like it's just one of the processes. So there's stage 1 and then there's stage 2. And we said,
Mm,
we're going to talk about like this is what stage 2 looks like. But we should
mm.
also talk about these are the things you should be doing to get from stage 1 to stage 2. And I'd say documentation is going to be one of those things that we touch on.
Yeah, for sure. Shall we
Because
delve
because
into
you
the
could be completely manual and you could be completely using one guy with all the knowledge in his head, and you're stage 1.
mm,
To get to stage 2, you gotta get everything scripted, and to get everything scripted, unless you're gonna fly by the seat of your pants, which if you're running an MSP, I'd like to think you're not gonna do that, like some other guy I know, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna, like, map out, all right, what does this script need to actually do? And you might be a Word doc guy, like, maybe you're using something like IT glue and you're just gonna type it all up, or Hoodoo or whatever. I don't care. It could be OneNote, okay? Or Apple Notes or Notepad. I was trying to
dude, you're
I
showing your
lost
age.
it. I was trying to think. I was like, "Oh no, I use a Mac. What do they call it on Windows again?" So
Oh, good.
so yeah, look,
Use Vim.
obviously some of the documentation is probably sensitive data, so don't just, put it in a document, call it passwords and leave it on your desktop, okay? But
No, put it on
um
your web server, dude.
yeah, yeah, post it up on the web. That's a great place for it. But no, like so y- I lost my train of thought, Harvey.
Sorry.
Um So yeah, you've got all these thoughts, right? You're gonna need to like map it out. And like I said, you could be just writing it down like a set of instructions with Word or whatever. You could use some kind of flow chart, whether it's Visio or even Canva can do flow charts now. Um, so you could just like flow out, here's what needs to happen when somebody calls in and says, I need to reset my password. And it could even include things like, how do I verify this is who they actually say they are? Like you need to have all this stuff kind of mapped out. And you may not be able to do every step in that process today, but change the color so that way it's red and that'll say, oh, you know what, I'm not actually doing this one yet or something, right? So map out what your processes need to look like. Um, Start making a repository of all the different like software that needs to get installed. Um, for now, it might just be you manually download Microsoft 365. In 6 months, it might be you're using Chocolatey and it's manually or automatically updating everything for you, right? So again, it's not about making it perfect right now. It's get what's in your head, put it on paper, and then figure out how do I improve this process. Would you
For
agree with
sure.
that, Harvey?
One thing I note too, and we see it a lot, write down what you do now, not what you think you should be doing. That's a common thing because
Yes.
when things get missed, write down what you're doing now. You can always map out, be aspirational and add stuff. But if you do something a really weird way that, maybe you wouldn't be proud to tell me any new text about, still write it down. It's got to get done. And if not, you'll forget it. So, uh,
100%. And if you have some tips, toss them in the chat. We're look, Harvey and I, as fun as it is to be here on a webinar and to, preach to you guys about how you're supposed to be running your businesses, that doesn't mean we're experts, all right? Look, I'm no fool. I know there's guys smarter than me. Harvey's probably one of them. Uh,
You too kind.
but
I
yeah. So I'm here because I'll take a quote from Farmers Insurance. I know a few things because I've seen a few things, right? So that doesn't mean I know everything. So please share some comments in the chat as we continue to talk.
mean,
So let's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did. You'll get used to me. I was just saying, my friends joke with me that I actually get dumber each year. Dude, they call me Harvey AI because AI has replaced the part of my brain that actually does the thinking, you know? So,
I like it.
yeah, for sure.
So if stage two is the scripted stage, what's that mean? Like, so we've got scripts for everything, right?
It doesn't necessarily have to be everything, but you just need to have, you know, some standardization of process and not so you're actually manually going into the admin panel and clicking here and typing the name and clicking next. It's just, you've got to be at the point where you have a repeatable, consistent process you can run, even if it's only for one client, but you can run a script and it produces the same output, touch wood, every time. You know,
That's yeah, that's a
and
good
it,
point. And it's still someone has to press go. Because
for sure.
all this means is a script has been written. That doesn't mean the script has been automated.
For sure. And, you know, it doesn't even have to be the full workflow either. Typically, when we start talking to MSPs in this stage, we find, uh, you know, they have a bigger workflow and then they just have scripts which they run in sequence or sometimes forget to run in sequence, but, you know, that do different parts of the process. Uh, yeah,
So so what would you say stage two looks like in practice? Like, if I said how does onboarding, like say we're onboarding a new a new user at a client.
sure. So typically, let's call him Bob. You have a technician, Bob, and he's got a whole bunch of PowerShell scripts sitting on his desktop or in a random document folder. Uh, if one tech picks it up, typically what they run may be different. So, you know, it's not even necessarily standardization across everywhere. It's just, you know, you're not doing everything by hand. Uh, and you've got a PowerShell script typically. You run on your local machine and touch wood, it works.
Okay. And then
Hmm.
device setup. So it's not necessarily a new user. We're just talking about the new device. How's that look? Same thing. Bob just has some scripts he's running.
I'm not even sure it's scripts at this point. Like, I'm thinking about where people are at. If they're at the point where they have like all the setup fully scripted out, they probably have a bigger platform. But you know, often we'll have PowerShell at this stage to run devices or Chocsy scripts uh, or typically, you know, you've got your RMM. You run a script in your RMM, boom, you deploy it on the endpoint by hand. Uh, you know, normal stuff.
Perfect.
Hmm,
So in a moment, we're going to talk about how to move from stage one to stage two. Which that we've got three basic steps for you
hmm.
guys. Actually, no, we're gonna talk about stage one to stage two first, and then we're gonna talk about stages three and four. I apologize. So, moving from stage one to stage two. So, if we were to say you got to focus on three things, what's the first thing you think we should be focusing on, Harvey?
Well, the first thing is you actually need to know where's your opportunity. There's no point scripting stuff for the sake of scripting. You know, we see that a
Mhm.
lot. People like tinkering. So, step one, I say always, is just identify the noise. You can ask your technicians what they spend a lot of their time doing. You can run a report in your PSA if it has it, being like, what's our most typical ticket? Uh, you could even just, you know, look at your diary and see what are we actually doing day to day and audit what's taking your time. But you can't get somewhere if you don't know where you're trying to go. And so you need to identify, you know, what takes my time and what's actually worth the attention.
Um, so identify the noise.
Hmm,
Maybe run a PSA report. What are your top 10 most frequent ticket types?
for sure.
And hopefully you've done a good job of configuring your PSA and your ticket types so that way when tickets are created, whether it's by the end user or your techs or your dispatcher or whomever, They are uh, they are being logged and tracked correctly. So, what are your top 10 most frequent ticket types? I'd love to see that in the chat. Toss that in when you guys get a sec. We talked about documenting your processes.
We
So
did.
that's yeah. You want to you could start with checklists, but turn those into some pretty clear SOPs before you automate. Just because if you have an SOP, it feels more official than a checklist, in
Yeah,
my
for sure.
opinion.
And if you call it that, it's good to actually just a few key points. That make sure your texts know where they are and have them somewhere front and center. Have it as a favorite on your tabs or something you keep open on your desktop. Like we see it often that you write a great doc. It's cool. You spend all your time doing it, and then it gets put in a drawer and never looked at again. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
These docs need to stay top of mind. I mean, that's for sure. Um, what would you say about creating some basic scripts? I mean, obviously, to move into stage two, you've got to have the documentation and you've got to have uh, uh, figured out what the noise is, right?
Yeah,
So, but stage two means you've got scripts. So that means you do have to start writing scripts.
for sure. And
What
so,
if I can't write scripts?
dude, we live in a beautiful age where we have AI now. You don't need to write your scripts. No one needs to write code anymore. Dude, Claude AI is incredible. Better than GPT, in our opinion, better than any. If you use Opus 4.5, you put on thinking mode, you upload the checklist and redact any passwords or anything like that if you have standard passwords. But throw that into Claude, say, I'm trying to automate this process. It's a new user onboarding or it's a password reset. Uh, I want to achieve this. I bet you now you poke that for 20, 30 minutes, you'll get something you can run in production. Uh, Run it in a sandbox environment, run it against a test tenant. Don't go like blading scripts against against live client environment straight out the gate. But uh,
Okay.
I mean, I'm the
I
world's biggest hypocrite for that. Push to prod, but yeah, for sure. Dude, AI is a game changer for all about now.
It really is, man. It really is. All right. It's not going to let me enter that into full screen, but it's okay. So what we're going to do now, sir, is we are going to take a quick little break. It's going to be like 5 minutes, guys. It should not be more than five. Okay. We are going to talk about our platforms and just let you know a little bit about what our companies do. If it's all right with you, Harvey, I will go first. I'll kind of set the tone, if you will.
Sure.
So, hey guys, welcome. Harvey has done a fantastic job of teaching us about automation maturity. And I would be remiss if I did not say that something you can automate does not always have to be part of service delivery. Um, Alternative payments has the ability for you to automate accounts receivable. So, what we do is we have built an accounts receivable platform. Today, it's accounts receivable. If I'm being honest, it's going to become like the financial operating system for MSPs all around the globe. Today, accounts receivable in the U.S. and Canada. And how it works is simple. You continue using your PSA, you continue using your accounting package. The difference is you use alternative payments to automate all of the accounts receivable. And that works by integrating the alternative payments platform with your PSA and with your accounting platform. And once you do that, we bring in the invoices. We can send them out to your clients for you. You can set up your schedule. You can set it up to send it when the invoice is created, send it when the payments due, send out a reminder a few days ahead if you're doing like ACH or bank withdrawal. So that way they make sure the money's in there. all that good stuff. And then you can even send out the "Hey, why haven't you paid me yet?" emails. Um, so we've got all of that automated for you. When they pay online using our portal, whether it's with a debit card, credit card, or ACH bank withdrawal, um, we will set the invoice paid in both the PSA and accounting. We will then um, deposit the funds into your bank account, and we'll create the deposit for you. And when we create the deposit, if you ate any of those credit card fees, we will even link those credit card fees and make sure everything lines up, matches. All you have to do is, why can I never remember this word? Reconcile your bank account, right? It all reconciles cleanly. Our client portal is super clean. So when your clients log in, they're going to see your logo up in the top corner, going to be branded with your colors. They'll be able to see their invoices, update their payment methods that they keep stored on file, and they can even set up auto pay themselves if you don't help them do it from your end. Like I said earlier, we integrate with PSAs, accounting platforms. We are even integrated with some quoting tools and a VoIP billing solution, Datagate. You guys have heard of that. We do two-way sync, automatic reconciliation. We make everything super easy for the MSP. So I will say this, guys, if you feel like you're spending too much time or wasting too much money today on accounts receivable, if you even have to make a single, "Hey, when are you gonna pay me?" phone call, let me tell you, those phone calls, they cost you reputation and relationship points. So why don't we have a conversation? Let me pop up a poll, and you can let us know if you're interested, because a conversation couldn't hurt. And let's discuss working with alternative payments. Thank you, everybody. Harvey, sir, the
Hey,
floor is yours.
I dude, I'll add one more thing to the end of your thing. I've got friends who use alternative payments and they love it. It's
It's awesome. Thank you.
I actually joke with them. Do they? Well, they automate a lot of their companies, right? We work them, but I always joke with them. Do you actually have anything to do in the day? They seem so relaxed. Like the auto pay stuff has been a game changer for them. So uh, yeah, it's been cool.
I appreciate it. We've got so many people who come and say, I was getting paid in like 16, 30 days, something like that. And I thought that was okay. But then we signed up with you guys and now we're getting paid in like 4 days on average. I think that's pretty awesome. Because who doesn't love getting money in their bank account 4 days after they ask for it? So,
It's dude, it changes the game. Like you got tax to pay, you got other bills to pay, you got vendors to pay. Hello, uh, so
hey, you got to pay poor Harvey over here.
dude, we need our money. I but yeah, sure. Did you want to wait for the end of the poll for me to jump in, or
No, man, go for it. They can. I have faith that these guys can check one of four options while listening to you.
did you got more faith in people than me? I
Oh,
no, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm talking about myself. I can't multitask to save my life. Uh I don't have a fantasy slide deck like you because but I do have. Do you mind if I do this the screen share real quick?
go for
Uh
it.
I have my website. Oh yeah. Okay. And uh being the terrible marketer I am, we don't have fantasy buzzwords and spiel. We talk very plain text. So no, like Steve and I mentioned earlier, I run a company called EverHold. Our flagship product is Trigger, and we're a done for you MSP automation platform. So I'm sure if you looked at any other automation platforms, and they're all good in the market, uh, they're great. But the one problem that actually caused us to start this product is it's great. You buy a tool, but then you actually have to figure out how to use it. And you guys are busy. You've actually got an MSP to run. You got clients to deliver services for, and so often we found that people would buy a product to automate their company, and then never actually get time to implement it and use it. And that's how Trigger was born. So we were created just to take it, make it super easy for you to automate your MSP. And literally all you do is you turn up to a call with us and we say, cool, how do you work? Which is why we really push the whole documentation for it. Uh, we take what you tell us and we build all the automations 100% done for you, hands off. Uh, Naturally, we've got a lot of automations that we've built before for people. So we can actually show you what's worked for other people with a similar stack to you, and we can help tailor it to you. But fundamentally, we take the process you have, and we automate it completely custom to you. Uh, in terms of Trigger, we only take 4 new accounts a month. It's a key thing we do. We actually brought
Hmm,
it down from 10. It was 10 last year. We said this year we want to spend more time with less people because we really get involved with you and take time to understand your process and uh, nuances how different clients you work with are. And so uh, we really get involved and try and become a partner in your business and help you automate as much as you can.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Um, and if you guys want some free stuff too, uh, slightly unrelated. Haha, who's on here? We've already got a customer. Oh yeah. We have Fisher, like I said earlier. So that's 100% free, and that's it's like a know before alternative or equivalent. So it lets you run like fishing simulations and education completely free.
Wonderful.
Hmm.
Well, thank you very much, sir. All right.
Sure.
I'll leave that poll up for you for just another few seconds. You've already gotten 80% of the people. So if you didn't answer the poll yet, waiting on you. Um, all right. So with that said, let's move on. How to move from stage one to stage two. We already did that. Now let's talk about stage three. What would you say this stage is called?
Stage three, we call stage three events driven.
Okay.
That we-
So what kind of
So
event? Like a party? Are we doing keg stands? What kind of events we talking about?
we can throw a party. Hey, can we throw a poll up? Who wants to have a party with us? Oh yeah.
Ah,
No, no, no. On a serious note, the events we talk about very typically are either, a form submission, most typically. So, an HR manager or a point of contact. One of your clients fills out a form saying, hey, we need a new user, or we want to terminate somebody, or, we need mailbox access for somebody, anything like that. And then, save that ticket coming in and then, Bob the tech trying to find the actual script and put in the details and run it. At the event driven stage, the form comes in, your automation platform of choice will just pick it up and then automatically execute it. Um, Another example of an event too could be we do have, like, for example, an actual PSA ticket where you can actually watch it. So say you get like a Sentinel-1 alert or something like that, you could then automatically read that and then have an automation trigger off the back of that. That's quite popular too.
very nice.
Hmm, for sure.
So when we're looking for real transformation going into the event driven stage. So instead of those humans running the scripts, you're gonna have your systems do it all for you. Now, is this I scheduled Windows updates to happen on Thursdays at 1 a.m. kind of event driven, or is this an alert fired that said uh I don't know, my printer's down and we're gonna tell it to restart the print spooler. Like what are we talking about here as far as event driven? Because both of those that I just gave you they almost feel rudimentary, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's very rarely like we do some scheduled stuff, right? But like very typically, it's often stuff you see on your service desk, which is why we said when you're all the way back at stage one and you're actually auditing what you should automate, it's often going to be inbound requests you get. So, uh, yeah, often it's very much your tier one stuff, like, hey, we need a new user, or we fired someone, we need to reset a password. Typically, those are the key events. And that's not to say that you aren't involved with the MSP. Typically, we advise anyone to put a stage where they can actually approve or reject the inbound request. So uh, if not, Steve could sit there and try and fire his CEO, and then boom, it runs, and it's your company now. But so typically, we have it so you actually want to be able to approve and see what's going on. But um, the whole idea is any system which can throw off data, whether it's your RMM saying, "Hey, there's something that needs remediating," or you got a SOC fire an alert, and you actually want to go and read and be like, "Is it a real threat? Have you already resolved it?" That sort of stuff. Uh, that's what we talk about at the event driven.
Okay. And then can you give me an example? Like what does an event driven user onboarding look like? Now we probably have somebody in HR filling out a form, right?
Sure.
And that form is the event. And
Cool.
then the event is going to trigger one or maybe several scripts to run, or it could be like one script that daisy chains into other scripts kind of thing. Like it really depends on how you decide you want to automate it, right? But it could be, each checkbox that gets checked in the form, maybe each one of those triggers a specific script. Oh, I want them to have this printer. Okay, well then this script runs to deploy that printer. I want them to have this share on. I want them to have the S drive on the server. Okay, well this script runs and gives them the S drive. So it really depends on how you want it to trigger, right?
Yeah, for sure. But 9 times out of 10, it's generally a form submitted by your client that's picked up. Uh, yeah, for sure. And then the idea is everything downstream. Like let's take the new user example. Very typically, what a flow would look like is um, someone at your client submits a new user request. You click approve. Uh, we have this idea that we talk about a lot, which you'll hear about human assisted automation. And so if you don't have defaults, so like which license you should give the user, uh, the system may ask your tech on the ticket saying which license should we give, and they can go select, give them a business premium. But the idea is outside of any other information your tech might have to provide, it's not pre-programmed in. It's all automated. So the user in Microsoft will get created, the right security groups will get added, the license will get assigned, even so far as actually creating a secure like password share link and automatically emailing the person who requested the new user that. Uh, the idea is, you know, bar you clicking approve, everything should execute automatically.
Okay. And let's talk about one more example. Let's say Sentinel-1, alerts that there's an issue, whatever that issue is. Like how much can we automate? Because you got to think, like, sometimes don't you just need to look and see, is this a legitimate issue or is this Sentinel-1 just being whiny, right?
Sure.
Remember that?
But that
Remember, you might not remember this, but I want to say it was like 10, maybe 15 years ago now at this point. WebRoot is still despised by MSPs because WebRoot blocked Facebook for like 6 hours. So if you had
really
the WebRoot agent and it was doing your content filtering for you, it wouldn't let you go to Facebook. And I think there were a few other websites too. It was just like all fun was blocked.
right. I didn't know that. That's funny. But a friend of mine used to work at WebRoot, so I will give him
Ask him about
credit
it.
for that. But let's take the Sentinel One example. It doesn't necessarily need to automatically remediate, for example, but in one example that we did for a client, we got a Sentinel One alert, and then we can actually look up in different databases like details from the alert, and so we can look it up and say, is this you know a false positive for whatever reason, and it's well documented, or is it something we need to care about? And then one thing that some people have done that we're playing about in a Sentinel One alerting flow at the moment is you can actually then take the details from Sentinel One, use a platform like ChatGPT or Claude, and use that API to actually enrich the details of it. So you give the AI a prompt, which is, "Hey, you are a SOC analyst. here's the details of our environment, or anonymize, of course. Uh, Here's the details of our alert from Sentinel-1. Uh, Write up, a plan, what should we investigate, and then you can have that sent to like the tech who's actually investigating. So the idea is you can either dismiss alerts, which you know for a fact aren't important, but you can also use it to be like a helping hand. So when you actually come to deal with the alert on the ticket already, there's additional information written. Uh, oh dear. Uh, yeah, that sort of stuff, right? So the idea is it can, even if you're not doing everything autonomously, it can actually help speed up the act of investigating too.
So just because I didn't want you guys to think I was making stuff up and talking bad. So it was an update they put out April 24th, 2017. I was very wrong on my dates. And they pulled it 15 minutes later. Apparently it was actually where it flagged core Windows system files as malicious, and it even started temporarily removing some of the legit files. But one of the issues was that it like blocked access to Facebook. And at that point, I was using a Mac. So, or at least I think I was. I don't remember anymore. It all it all starts to blur together for me. But anyway, that was the fun I was thinking about. So you enjoy that.
Damn.
Talk to your buddy.
I did. I imagine it's not quite as bad as who were the guys who took down everyone recently? Was it CrowdStrike? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Last year. Yeah. So
CrowdStrike was
no one's gonna reach that
CrowdStrike.
level. But
And what's funny is CrowdStrike, everyone still loves CrowdStrike. But Webroot, like, oh man, they took down Facebook. Like CrowdStrike, they just took down a bunch of computers. Like,
no, nobody.
but Webroot took down our beloved Facebook. Let me tell you.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
can we have Sentinel, not Sentinel One, but can we have the automation like looking up the alert to like say, is this a false positive? Is this a real threat? And
Yeah.
are we like using an API into Claude or whatever at that point then?
Yeah, both. So there's, I forget off the top of my head, there's some providers we've plugged into before where it actually enriches the threat details and can be like, is it a false positive, or, you know, how serious
Right.
is it? And then, uh, yeah, often we'll then take the full threat details if it still actually cares about it. You can plug it into an AI engine and be like, enrich this data. Yeah, with AI stuff, you got to take it with a pinch of salt, right? It does hallucinate, but uh,
Yeah.
90% of the time, it will actually give back actionable stuff that helps your tech just be more efficient.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
So how would you move from stage 2 to stage 3? If you had to give us just 3 things to do.
Sure. So, the first one that I'd really push people to look at is looking to standardize your scripts. So, stage two, right? You're scripted, but you may have a different script for one client over here, and you got a different script for another one. And so the idea is you want to be able to define like a standard flow for each typical one taken onboarding, uh, and really have variables controlled it. So you just want to define different branches within your automation that can change based on the client. Uh,
Yeah.
that's a big thing, you don't want to have to go into any event-driven automation platform and create 50 different onboarding flows. No, you want to have one master flow and then just branch and change uh, based on key parameters which change per client.
Um Probably integrate your stack, you know, your RMM, your PSA, your documentation, your scripts.
Mm.
Everything probably needs to be integrated via APIs and webhooks, right?
For sure, documentation's a big one. You want to write to IT Glue or Hoodoo or um, anything like that. You don't want to have text going and manually updating that after. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. And
I mean,
then one,
I do.
I yeah, he does. And then one thing to mention too is typically you need a way to actually track executions, which isn't dependent on a technician, because don't forget you're not having a tech sitting there and watching a PowerShell script anymore. An external event is triggering something, and it may even process before any of your techs even know it happened. You need to adopt a platform, whether it's Az or Roost or N8N or hack your own. I don't know. Uh, But the idea is you need a way just to standardize and to actually monitor executions that aren't tied to one tech or one key person. It's just, uh, yeah, just standardize and make sure you can track.
Very cool.
Hmm,
And then you got to add your triggers, right? So you got to create the forms or the events or the alerts that are going to kick off these different workflows.
for sure. I wouldn't have thought of that. And it's funny given my product's called Trigger. Uh, Yeah, for sure. So whether it, then people do this in different ways, right? So whether, like in our platform, we have inbuilt forms people can fill out, client facing, but very often people will link up their existing form, whether you've got a Google form or you've got a Halo form you'd like data to be sent from. Uh, and, often most major platforms that have webhooks too, that you can subscribe to. So, hey, my invoice got paid. Cool. We should go do something over here. Actually, there's a funny one, and it's not quite MSP related, but I'll share it real quick. Uh, buddy of mine owns a web design shop, and they had an automation we built just for shits and gigs, which was uh, if someone was too late paying an invoice for too long, we'd have an automation gradually fade down the opacity of their website. And so uh, if they fall several months behind, just you log onto the client website, you can't see anything. I'm not saying you should do that, but the point is, you can have your billing system like alternative payments, or you can have, uh, your SOC tools or anything like that, ping data via a webhook, and you can process off the back of it.
Now let's talk about the autonomous stage. This is the peak, right?
Margarita time.
This is the promised land.
Probably.
And I'll be honest, we don't have much time. We've got just a couple minutes left, but I suspect there are many MSPs who are not reaching stage 4 today, right?
Not many. We've got a few, I reckon, are starting to get there with a few bits, but uh, yeah, very few, dude. Very few. Like I said, if anyone that fully gets here, I will buy your MSP off you. Now I'll go sit on a beach and drink margaritas with Steve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Um so predictive alerts, it might be doing trend analysis. It might have self-healing infrastructure that is like
Mm.
looking for anomalies and it's handling all of that automatically. It feels like you're running AWS or Azure. And I don't mean like you're running something on it. No, I mean you're running it. Um, like that's how insane autonomous is. And you got to think like that's probably how Microsoft and Amazon have built their data center infrastructure for hosting, right? It's very autonomous. They don't have, you know, 100,000 tech. I mean, they might, but they don't have 100,000 techs that are just like doing tech support on all of their servers. They've got, a few hundred guys who have scripted and automated the hell out of everything. And they only get involved when it's like requires hands.
Mm.
You know, they it's it's a very hands-off process. Um And the cool thing is the automation is able to do the thing that your MSP has already been promising your clients for years. You're gonna fix those problems before they even break.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so you're gonna automate yourself out of firefight. So, like, what does what does something autonomous look like? Maybe we're doing some proactive backup remediation.
Yeah, sure. I can actually talk about a couple of examples that I've seen people do and we've been asked for uh, to give an idea of what probably fits in this category. So, uh, like one thing that we see quite a lot, we've been trying to do is that everyone's familiar with, hey, your RMM pings you when, uh, your
Mhm.
server's getting out of space and, go clean it up. But we can probably get one step ahead of that, which is like you mentioned, trend analysis. So if you can see the hard drive increasing at, I don't know, how many gig a week or something stupid, we can actually have an automation which will predict when is it going to become a problem and just make sure it auto cleans up way before you even get alerted. Um, like another one too. You mentioned that it's like the whole backup one. So it actually came from a client example where their Ninja backups, for whatever reason, stopped running. They had another backup system, so they were okay, but they could have been in deep trouble if something happened and their backups weren't happening on their service. Uh, and so the idea behind this is you have a proactive system which actually checks, hey, are all our backups running okay? And if not, why? So is the endpoint decommissioned or has something gone wrong? If so, can we auto remediate it? And failing any actions that it could actually do itself, just escalate to a technician. But the idea is 90% of the time, script solves it, creates a ticket, writes to a ticket, poses a ticket. You never have to touch it. It's just done. Uh, that's the promised land.
Love it, man.
Yeah,
Take us to the promised land. Can Everhold can Trigger take an MSP to the promised land, or do they still need more? And I'm not saying they need more products. Do they need more uh, configuration and uh, whatever? Right?
we're working on it with some people. Uh,
Yeah.
the only thing I'll say is it requires time. Like we have people, who rock up and just think, I want automation. It's going to be magic, and we're not going to do anything and figure it out. Like it's an investment and it's a process, and you can get there. But like I said, you have to invest in documentation and how things fit together. And is there nuance for a different client? And does this one client have conditional access, which means you have to do a different way of connecting and all stuff like that? You can get there, but
Mhm.
with automation, you sort of get out what you put in. Uh, and so the more time you invest, either with us or a different automation partner, the more you get out of it. And so, yeah, we can get there, but we're not magic, you can't just click your fingers and boom, it's all automated. It's a process of like systematically identifying what fires could come up, how do we predict it, how do we remediate it, and then working to test it.
Okay. Well, hey guys, I know we have gone over on time, so thank you everyone for sticking around. This was awesome, Harvey. I
Sure.
really appreciate you coming on and teaching us more about the automation maturity model. And I would love to learn more about this some other time,
Hmm.
to figure out, where is everybody on their automation maturity level journey. Um, it's fun to continually improve your MSP. So, thank you so much. And guys, we have plenty more webinars where this came from, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future as we continue to educate MSPs to help you all run better, more profitable business. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.